everybody. Welcome to the For the Love podcast. Gosh.
Welcome. Hi.
I've missed you.
It's been a month. We took a break.
We took a month off, which in 7 years of podcasting, I've never done. I don't think that many weeks. I know this is going to come out a little bit later, but this is our first interview of 2025.
It is.
And we started off with a bang.
It's a doozy.
Oh boy, just a bang. But before we bring her on, oh boy, first, I'm glad you're here today because this is a really, really great episode.
It is.
But we're going to start off this episode right with a little rant or rave.
It's time for Rant or Rave, where we rant or we rave.
All right. I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this. Is it a rant or a rave for you when you think of motivational slogans? Okay, let's put some in the zeitgeist. Okay, why can't I find one? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? Like, success doesn't come to you, you go to success. What else? Give another.
All of those.
Oh, yes.
Shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land among the stars.
Oh, good one. Good. So are you a yes on these?
I have not been.
Okay.
I've been a hard no.
Okay, that's what I thought you would say.
Most of my life, because a lot of things just didn't apply to me in that moment. But if it does apply to me, if there's one that hits home, I love it. If it's for that season or that day and it gives me a different perspective, then I love it.
Right.
But,
do you have an example?
No.
Oh, of course not.
Of course
Okay.
not.
Yes.
But typically I respond as like, you're not the boss of me.
Oh, it's bossy.
Like kitten hanging off a branch.
Oh,
you don't
God.
know.
Why are they all like that? The posters.
Right. Or the guy on top of a mountain.
Yeah.
Which literally it's the rest of my family.
Well, God, that is actually
on top of a mountain.
literally true.
And I just think, like, you don't know.
You don't know me. Maybe I don't want to reach the summit.
Right.
Or whatever the saying is.
But I have to admit, when the right one comes along, it sinks deep.
You know, I agree with you. I think maybe, I don't know if we're allowed to make the tweet, because I was thinking, do I like these? And the answer is generally no. They're so like aspirational and like lofty and nebulous. They're not tangible. Like, what do you mean shoot for the moon? You know, What do you mean? What are you trying to tell me? Like, speak plain. But I do like a version of this, which is like more like a phrase that feels a bit like a mantra. Or I don't even know if this counts. I don't think this counts as a motivational quote. In fact, I know it doesn't, because it's plucked straight out of a poem. But it's like the little phrase that has played on a free loop in my head since the first time I read it, however many years ago, which is Mary Oliver's quote embedded in her poem, you know, what is it that you want to do with your one wild and precious life? The way I have thought about that is 10 million times. So it's not a motivational saying so much, but kind of.
Right. I'm much more likely to be motivated to change myself for the better from a Rumi calendar than something that intends to be motivational.
I get the difference. Like, I'm going to make a poster with the kitten on the tree.
Yeah.
And going to slap this little saying on it, and you are just magically going to be motivated.
What I do love are the demotivational posters, which I just looked that up on the internet.
Like, what do you mean?
Like, they're just like snarky, demotivational, a play on all of the
oh my God, I have such a good example.
Tropes. Those make me laugh and probably make me more reflective than the intentional motivational things.
You're not a huge social media user, but I'm going to insist that you follow an account on Instagram, and it is called Effin' Birds.
Oh.
Do you follow Effin' Birds? As in EFFIN?
No, I do. Off and on. Sometimes I find my language during the day in my normal life is worse if I'm always reading those posts.
I know.
And I'm trying to cut down. But yes, I go to it when I need it.
It's demotivational. And it's mean. It's very cursy. So if curses bother you, I would just skip right on over effing birds. But of course, I'm out here and I can't get my phone to. Oh, there it is.
No, I know. Because, it's birds.
Well,
we love
they're
birds
just
in our
pretty
house.
little drawings of birds. And it will say, and I'll say, I won't say the full word, so we don't have to bleep it, but it'll say things like, and this pretty little drawing, and then the caption, please stop acting like I'm a fan of this F show.
Right.
I mean, that's hilarious. I don't care who you are. Somehow I remain under effing whelmed. See, that's funny.
It's funny.
I'm motivated to be under effing whelmed when I read that. So anyways, okay. I like the anti that you just brought into this conversation. Let's do one quick more little segment because this interview is so good and we packed so much in it. And I don't want you to miss any of it. So we don't want to take up all your time talking about nonsense like we like to do. But let's do a very quick little culture shock. Let's say you're heading into a big meeting or a big thing or just a whatever. You're starting some new big project.
Maybe a big interview.
For example, like we're about to do. You need to psych up a little bit. So you're not trying to calm down because sometimes that's what I do is try to calm my central nervous system. But let's say you want to fire it up. What's your go-to hype song? Do you have one?
I do, but preemptively you said you don't want to calm down, but I always need to calm down.
Okay, you need to go down, not up.
Yes.
That's generally me too.
I have ramped myself up so much, but in the wrong way that I need to get back to baseline.
You're just wound like this, up tight, like a knot.
So I need, in the car, driving down here, I need to listen to calming songs.
I see what you're saying.
Like Van Morrison. And a go-to always for me for years now is No Hard Feelings. By the Avett Brothers.
How does it go?
I mean, it's really a deep and kind of sorrowful song about death, like the end of your life, no hard feelings. But it reminds me in the moment also.
Yes.
Take things with a grain of salt.
Give us a little
no
bar.
hard
Sing
feelings.
Us a little bar.
I do not sing
You
on
can
the
do one.
podcast.
You can do one bar.
No, I refuse.
Damn
but
it.
everybody should listen to that song
Right.
all the time. It's so good.
Okay.
So but then afterwards, after the thing is when
the celebration song, if you will.
Yes.
I see what you're saying.
My go-tos are almost every Foo Fighter song.
Oh, yeah, good one.
Always. And then all my
Good one.
90s, like Depeche Mode and The Cure. And I also love Taylor Swift. So.
And it is a free country.
I can sing anything so loud and joyously in my car. It actually doesn't.
No, me too. And I do it. And I aggressively use the thumbs up feature on Pandora. And I'll just be like, Alexa, thumbs up. And she'll always say, awesome. Because they like when we use that. She likes when we use that feature.
Yeah.
People don't use it enough. So my thumbs up station is 400 songs.
Yeah, and it's perfect for you.
Yeah, no, I love it. I'm so much like you in that I tend to be wound up already before a thing.
Yeah.
I do not need more. I need less.
Yeah.
I need a call. I'm not a person. Tyler puts his headphones on and I can hear it from 2 rooms over when he's whatever he's doing. I guess amping up his brain. I don't know how that works exactly. He likes it just pounding like beat.
My God.
Yeah.
What that would do to me.
Same. I'm overstimulated just saying it. So I'm the opposite too. I go low. I go lower, but that's okay. We can be who we are because that's just how we're made.
I have celebration songs, not hype songs.
So do I. And it doesn't have to do around me needing to regulate my emotions. I like it just because I like it. And I go straight hardcore 90s country. And it just does a thing for me every time. Okay, that's it. That's enough nonsense because this is such a good interview. And we've just finished it. And I feel like I had 1,000 things I wanted to say and ask. And
I could have gone on for 3 more hours.
Same. I had questions.
I have a lot of questions. I still need some help with some things.
Yeah, me too. I wanted some clarity on a couple of sticky places in my life. But you know what? Guess what we have now? We have Mel's cell phone number because that's how it works when you come on the show.
And I can reread the book, I guess.
Okay, you're right. So let me tell you who we have on today. One of the most interesting, wise, inspiring people out there right now. I'm thrilled to introduce you, if you've never met her, if you don't already follow her, to Mel Robbins. So Mel's she's an international speaker. She's an absolute best-selling author. She's got a huge podcast, and she's the powerhouse behind a couple of really big ideas that have had traction in the last handful of years. The 5-second rule really made a huge splash when she put that out there. And then for our purposes today, her newest book is called The Let Them Theory. So I love it because you start this book right out of the gate with her at rock bottom. I mean, I think in the first 2 sentences, she's like, we were $800,000 in debt. And I was like, well, here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go. She's put into practice this let them theory and come out on the other side. And it is so simple and so powerful. So this is not clunky. It's not complicated. It's not hard to remember. It isn't multi-stepped. This is so simple that you're not going to believe it. It's practical and down to earth, which is, I think, why I'm drawn to her. She has this very no-nonsense way about her. So I feel like she's a normal person like we are, with normal kids and normal relationships and the normal capacity to like lose it for no good reason. You know, some people you talk to them and you're like, oh, you're just built different. Yeah. You're just special. You're just calm. Mel's she's just a normal person like you and I. And this let them theory, I'm telling you, it lives rent free in my head right now.
Yes.
I promise you that I am using it every single day.
Every day.
In some capacity. So basically, before we bring her on, she is going to show us how to let go of what we cannot control, which is a lot of stuff. That is a lot of stuff that we are giving our time and energy and emotion to. How to literally liberate ourselves from that. And then find freedom in these 2 little words, let them. And we're going to talk about that in several different facets. But I'm telling, it's a game changer for your happiness, for your wellness, for your relationships, for your energy, for your time, really, and just for your joy. I cannot wait for you to hear more. So help us welcome the absolutely amazing Mel Robbins to the For the Love podcast. Well, it's just about time that I finally just had your face staring at mine through a screen somewhere, and one day we'll make it in person. Hi, I'm so happy to finally meet you.
It is just an honor, Jen, to finally be able to talk to you instead of just stalking you online. So thank you for making this legal and inviting me. I'm so excited to be here with you.
That's right. We are just legitimizing it. Fantastic. We've just been so looking forward to talking to you about this particularly. And, you know, I've been watching you talk about Let Them now for months and months and months, you know, before even the book came out, as clearly you were workshopping it and using it in practice. And I cannot tell you how many times I have had some bullshit going on around me. And my little tiny chirpy brain goes, let them do it. Mm-hmm. Let them do it. This is not your business. Don't make it your business. It is so useful. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yes.
We've obviously read your book, and we've got a million questions. And I got to tell you, there was at one point you were using an example in a paragraph about adult children, and I was like, shit. Damn it. I was hoping you had left it out, but you did not. So we'll get to that in a minute. So let's talk about this for people listening. And they're just like, what are these ladies talking about? What's this shorthand they're speaking already? Can you talk about the origin story of the let them theory?
Sure. So the let them theory is basically just a simple mindset hack. And it helps you immediately understand what's in your control and what's not in your control. And I spent the first 54 years of my life basically trying to control things that were beyond my control. And in doing so, caused myself so much unnecessary stress and frustration. And this all came to a head at my son's junior prom.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I was a psychopath that day, but for whatever reason, I was completely worked up into a tizzy, and I was obsessing over everything, whether it was the corsage he was going to give his date, to the rainstorm that happened, and the kids wanting to run out in the rain, or her shoes was going to get ruined, her dress was going to get ruined, where they were going to go for, like, just so dumb. And at one point, as I was starting to get worked up about the fact that my son and his date wanted to just run outside into the rain before the prom, was going to trash everything. My daughter reaches out and grabs my arm. She was home from college, and she yanks me toward her, and she's like, Mom, you're being so annoying. Let them. Like, let them run out in the rain. Let them go to the taco stand for dinner. Let him ruin his shoes. Let her not want the corsage. Like, it's their prom, not yours. Let them do what they want. And there was something about just that, like, cascading. Let them. It's like a sledgehammer over and over, that by like the seventh one, my shoulders dropped. And I kind of had this thought, like, why do I care about this? Just let them. And so I walk up to Oakley, our son, and he's like, what? You know, because I'd been like just on him. And I'm like, nothing. Here's $40. Like, go have fun. And then his shoulders dropped.
Yeah.
And that wasn't even the moment. The moment really was over the course of the next couple days, because what started happening is anytime I found myself annoyed or frustrated or upset or worried or hurt or whatever, I just said, let them to myself. And it was almost like there was this hidden lever that I discovered that the second I said it, and you already described it, Jen, it's like you say those two words, let them, and it's like you find this switch that just immediately, it's like instant peace. And I didn't realize how often I was letting other people or the world outside me piss me off or frustrate me or drain my energy until I finally had this boundary that I could put in place between me and other people and me and the world around me. And what you're going to notice, because, you know, as soon as you can already start using it, like just taking the time to listen just to this point of the conversation.
Yeah.
You can already use the let them theory. You can use the first part, which is let them. Anytime anybody pisses you off or you're annoyed or hurt or frustrated or you feel like things are overwhelming, just say, let them. Now, when you say it, Jen, what do you feel?
Well, initially, it almost feels like putting myself in a very, very wanted timeout. Like, hey, sis, hey, let's just walk over here. We're going to let that be exactly what it is. It's not, you're not making those choices. This isn't about you. You don't have any control here, even if you are trying to make it about you, which is my general deal. And it just feels like, oh my God, maybe I'm not responsible for everybody's joy, happiness, success, and life outcomes, which is a new way for me to be thinking.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Especially since I know your work, this is not a new idea.
Yeah.
However, what was life-altering for me is that I knew I didn't want to be a people pleaser. I knew I wanted to be more chill. I wish I could have been more stoic. I've read Thich Nhat Hanh and Buddhism and Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. I've always wanted to go against the conditioning of people pleasing and perfectionism. I didn't know how to apply it, particularly in those moments where I'm already emotional. And so
That's right.
Right.
what became just crazy is I'm like, wait a minute. Saying these two words applies all that stuff. You just
That's
called it a timeout. It's true. Because what you're putting yourself in a timeout from is a lifetime of conditioning, as a woman in particular, that it's your job to make everybody happy. That if other people are pissed off or moody or sad, you got to fix it.
That's right.
And so let them is this tool you can use to deprogram people pleasing and this need to fix everything. And then the next part of this, which came through researching the theory as it started going viral, is the let me part.
Yeah.
And the let me part's way more important. Like everybody loves saying let them because you feel superior, you feel free, you get some time and energy back, you start to feel like you're respecting yourself, you're no longer people pleasing, and that's amazing. That's why everybody tattoos let them on their bodies because it's a reminder, hey, my time and energy is worth protecting. I'm going to let people have their drama and their bullshit, and I'm going to protect myself from it and let them be who they are and not make it my job to change them. Let adults be adults. But then what happens is the more you say let them, the more you might find, oh, wait, I'm the only one in my family that makes an effort. Oh, wait, my friends don't call back. Oh, wait, my boss really doesn't see the contribution I'm making. And it can leave you, if you only say let them, actually feeling like you're alone in your corner in your time out. Now you're really lonely. So you got to remember to say the second part, which is let me. And this is where it gets very cool. Because let them protects your time and energy, and it stops you from giving your power to other people. When you say let me, you take your power back and you remind yourself that there are three things in your control. So you say let me, and you remind yourself, let me remind myself that what I think about this is within my control. What I do or don't do is within my control, and not doing something is just as important as doing something.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And, you know, I think we forget, I'll give you an example. Like, have you ever been in a line and maybe you're at the garden center and they've only got one cash register open and there's five people in front of you, and it's like beep, beep,
Sure.
beep,
Yeah.
right? And how do you feel in that moment, Amy and Jen?
I mean, that I should be in charge of staffing
That's
at
right.
the garden center.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And so when you say let them, something interesting happens. You don't allow that to now put you in a state of stress. But here's the more important part. Let me remind myself I can leave. I'm not powerless right now. I could actually take the 10 minutes and listen to this podcast. I could call my grandmother. There are lots of things within my control. And when you say let me, you remind yourself that you can leave any line, any dinner table, any date, any relationship, any job, any text chain, anytime you choose. You always have power. And the third thing that's always in your control is how you process your emotions. Do you let them run you over and hijack you? Or do you let them rise and fall and then choose how you're going to respond?
It's empowering.
It is. I've actually, since you've been talking about it, and I've learned this method, I've been using it sort of shoehorned into another practice I've been working on for years. I've been doing Byron Katie's 4 questions of, in any situation, is this true? Is this really true? How does it make me feel? And then the fourth one I'm always stuck on. How would my life be if I didn't feel this way? And I needed this
Like a
hack.
bridge.
Yes, because my response was, I don't know how I would feel. Like, I've never not felt this way. But inserting let them in the middle of that has given me enough space to then imagine, like have the experience of, this is how it feels. Like, this is possible to remove myself, give myself a timeout, and just focus on myself instead of the situation.
Amy, I appreciate you raising this because I think Byron Katie is a genius. I love the 4 questions, and it's never worked for me.
It is hard. And I've been trying and
it's
trying.
so theoretical.
It's so
Correct.
theoretical. And if you have things that are rooted in trauma or crisis, and you're just trying to ride the emotion, it's super helpful. It hasn't worked for me on that last step, and I think that's where the growth is.
Well,
So let them has given me the space.
Yeah.
Well, Amy, so let me unpack this a little bit. So I think those 4 questions are a fabulous journaling exercise. Where let them and let me comes in is in the moment where you're actually activated.
Yeah.
So if you think about the science and the research, when you're in a situation where your stress is already triggered, so you're on edge, you're worried, you're frustrated, you're disrespected, you're annoyed, you're whatever, hurt, you are now in a situation, medically speaking, where you've gone from this part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, which helps you answer Byron Katie's questions.
Right.
And the second that you're on edge or stressed or emotional, the amygdala is now in charge.
Right.
And what I love, which is why I can't answer those questions, because when I say, is this true? I'm like, yes, it's true. The line is long and it's annoying the hell out of me. Well, is it really, really true? Yes, there's 5 people in it. So I could intellectualize myself to death. And I think for a lot of women in particular, we spend so much time upstairs in our heads as people pleasers and overanalyzers and overthinking and ruminating and trying to get things perfect, that's the last place I should be personally. I need to drop in to my body and get out of my head. And so when I say let them, one of the reasons why this tool works is because it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It has deep roots in Buddhism, Stoicism, the Serenity Prayer, detachment theory, radical acceptance. I was just on the My Legacy podcast with Martin Luther King III and his wife, Andrea. And as we were talking about the let them theory, he said, Mel, this is my father's legacy.
Wow.
Because when we were having to train people in in peaceful protest, you have to train someone to not respond to the oppressor and to violence. And not responding isn't a form of surrender. It's an act of power. And what you're talking about when you say let them is it's even bigger than a timeout. Like, we use the word timeout because we're stopping ourselves from responding, right? But what it actually is just an act of power to say let them. Because what you're doing when you say let them is you're actually saying it in a moment where you recognize that your time and energy has value, and so does your response to things. And so when you say let them, you've actually honored and valued your own time and energy and your response. And that's why this becomes even bigger than stopping yourself, because the bigger issue is every time you say let them, it's an act of self-love. It's an act of worthiness, because you recognize that anything that is beyond your ability to control, you're not going to waste time and energy on because you value it so much. And this is how you take responsibility for your life from this point forward. And let's look at the word responsibility. Responsibility is simply the ability to respond. And often choosing not to respond either to your mother's derogatory comment, let her, or your friends like unfollowing you, let them, or something not working out the way that you want, let it. You're recognizing that what just happened already happened, so I'm not going to waste time and energy. I'm going to pull my time and energy back because I value myself, and I recognize that I have the ability through how I respond to something to make it better or to learn from it. And that's kind of why this is going to help you, because it does create that space between response, and then you can go back to your journal and take those 4 incredible questions and really infuse it in your neural pathways when you're not stressed out. Then you can lock in the programming.
Yeah.
That's so true. It does give you the time to calm down. That I love to respond out of like when I'm spazzing.
Yes.
And then it's emotional and it's dramatic and I tend to exaggerate. It's hyperbolic. I'm for everybody, for myself, how I'm perceived. It is actually very possible to get yourself out of that spiral.
Yeah.
And respond from a different place and from like this, depressurized internal system. And it's stunning how different those two responses are.
Yeah, and I'll tell you who it's really stunning with. If you have anybody in your life that has a narcissistic personality style, or you have anybody in your life that is very emotionally reactive or immature, they give you the silent treatment, they rage.
Yeah.
Literally, when you start to say, let them, and you don't engage in that, the entire dynamic changes.
Yeah.
Because what we do, and I've made this mistake for years, is I think that if I change the other person, then the dynamic's going to change.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
of course, we know how to change them because we know what's best, for them and for this relationship. And so maybe this will be the year I can get them to behave better.
Yep.
It's a disaster.
Yep.
It is.
Yep. Because you're pushing against fundamental human wiring. And, I didn't realize this until I started researching the theory, which is we all have a fundamental hardwired need for control.
Yep.
You got to feel in control of your thoughts and what you're eating and what's happening at work and your finances and your decisions. But here's the problem. If your behavior, Jen and Amy, if your behavior bothers me or worries me or upsets me or frustrates me, then your behavior makes me feel like I'm losing control, and then I make a mistake. I step across the line and I try to motivate you or pressure you or fix you. And that never motivates change. It creates resistance to it because now I'm pushing against your need to be in control of yourself.
Yep.
And nowhere do we see this than in our adult kids and in our teenage kids, that we push because we see the potential. And look, if there's a situation that's dangerous or destructive or discriminatory, of course you parent. That's not what we're talking about. Right. We're talking about those day-to-day moments where you're annoyed or worried about or kind of in this kind of deadlock with somebody where you just keep pushing and you don't understand why it's not working. Well, the reason why it's not working is people only change when they're ready to change.
Yeah. You do a really good job of explaining that in the book, and I sort of had an aha moment as someone who's always liked to be in control, like been called, a control freak my whole life. But just recognizing that's human nature, and also recognizing that's everyone's human nature.
Right.
And the way you explain it has helped me in the moment when I'm activated realize a response comes from the front of my brain. The need for control and the reaction comes from the amygdala. And just saying those words, let them, helps me sort of transfer everything back to the front.
Yep.
Yes.
Exactly.
And then don't forget the let me part.
And then I can take a breath and say, okay, what can I do?
Yeah, and I'd like to hear you talk more about let me, because what I don't want somebody listening in to think that hasn't had access to your work yet, or this is a new idea, is that what you are not saying is, hey, let people trash you. Let them take advantage of you. Let them waste your money.
Hold on, Jen. You already are.
Because they're already doing it.
You're already allowing it and then explaining it away up here.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so this is not like a lot of people, wait, am I supposed to be a doormat? No, you already are. And I'm supposed to let them ghost me? They're already ghosting you.
Yeah.
It's the obsession with explaining away behavior that keeps you trapped in bad and destructive patterns in your life. And so when you say let them, a couple things happening. First of all, you're recognizing who somebody is and where you stand in their life.
Yep.
Because people reveal who they are and what they care about through their behavior. Ignore their words, watch their behavior. And so let people be who they are, let them do what they're going to do. Because focusing on them is not where your power is. Then you say the let me part. And the reason why let me came about is because, I discovered this thing at the prom. I then share it on social media after I'd been using it for about a week. It goes crazy viral. People start getting tattoos. We do one podcast episode. It becomes one of the top shared episodes on all of Apple of all podcasts of the year. And then we dig into the research because I'm like, what is going on? Like, why does this work? I didn't even understand why it worked, or it's like kind of origins and stoicism and detachment theory and stuff. And as we analyzed the comments, there were only 3 pushbacks on it universally. And I'm talking 10,000 comments. Number one, people are like, am I supposed to let my kids eat chocolate for? No, like this is for adult relationships and for teenagers. Second, I'm just supposed to let them drive drunk? No, they're already drunk. Let them be drunk. Let me take the keys. Like you step in when somebody is doing something destructive dangerous, or self-harming. The problem is most people don't do it in front of you. Third pushback was, I'm now using this and I'm lonely.
Yeah.
I'm now using this and I'm seeing that the person that I'm in a relationship with doesn't actually care about me. And now what? And here's what I realized. I'm like, I can't put something out in the world that has people feel more lonely or that becomes this sort of like cross-armed, well, just let them. And it justifies ghosting people or not talking it out and not doing your part. I want this to bring you closer. I want this to create acceptance and compassion. And so it was out of the research that I'm like, we got to have a second step. And that's where let me came in. Because if you are saying let them, let's just say with your family, and you start to realize my siblings never initiate. I'm the one that always initiates. Well, let them. And then you come to the let me part and ask yourself this, what do you value in life? And if family is one of your core values, then stop looking to your siblings to be the ones that are responsible for creating your relationship with family. Should you have siblings that reciprocate? Of course. Do I wish that you felt like they included you more? Of course, you deserve that. But maybe you're just the extroverted one. Maybe they have a lot going on right now and they haven't even shared it with you. Maybe you reaching out is what's keeping everybody together. Maybe this is just your gift in life. And instead of sitting in resentment and judgment, what if you just align with your values and let me own that? And same thing with friendship. And when it comes to relationships, I think a lot of the trouble, especially when you're in your 20s and your 30s, or you're putting yourself back out there after a breakup, a lot of the really toxic patterns that people get in is not because of the other person. It's because you refuse to see their behavior as the truth. You have sex with them while you're drunk and then they sneak out in the morning and you're trying to convince yourself that that's love. If somebody doesn't want to put a label on the relationship, let them, because they're telling you you don't matter. They're telling you, I don't want to label this because I want to sleep with other people.
Right.
Yeah.
It's your inability to let somebody reveal who they are and where you stand that's keeping you from seeing the truth. They're not the problem, you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a big dose of "You're the Problem" when I read your book. I was like,
Same.
oh, this is so rude. She's in my
Yes.
business. She's in my relationships.
And you disrupted my really elaborate imagination when I create narratives about
sure.
why things are happening.
God, me too.
But if I stop and say, it's not my business, let them do it, what's my role? Then that really is like, it disrupts the pattern.
Yeah. And you keep saying not my business. What's different from not my business and let them? It's worlds apart, and here's why. When you say not my business, you're sort of scolding yourself.
Always.
When you say let them, you're actually in the power position because you're saying, I see what's happening and I'm going to allow it without allowing it.
Yeah, see what you're saying.
You're kind of rising above it. It's very different also. Let them's very different from saying let it go. Because for me,
Yes.
I've never been able to let anything go because
Yeah.
when somebody says you got to let it go,
Never.
I'm like, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
It feels like I'm defeated.
Sure.
Whereas when I say let them, it's actually the superiority thing. Because I'm saying I recognize and see what's happening, and I'm also recognizing I'm above it.
Right. Right. And let it go leaves behind let me. Let it go just says everybody gets to do whatever they want at all times, no matter how it affects me, and I will just take that on the chin.
Yes, exactly.
And that's not what you're saying here. It's actually very, very empowering. I'm curious, because this has been a couple of years for you now in practice.
Yeah.
Obviously now we've got the book, we've got the thing, we are getting to assimilate this information, but I'm curious where you saw the biggest transformations in your life when you started using this.
The first thing that I noticed was I had way more time and energy because I was using it to not allow the outside world to stress me out. Long lines, airports, traffic, just let them. But the most profound difference has been with family. So we just did one of those big family trips where my dad turned 80 and his bucket list, let's go to Machu Picchu. And
Great.
so we all go, my brother's family, his 2 kids, our family, our 3 adult kids. We're all in the bus, on the tour. My nephews arrive with the flu, so everybody's in masks and coughing. I got to tell you something. It was the best vacation we had ever had. None of us live near each other, so every family trip has the highest stakes in the world because we're trying to make up for lost time.
Sure.
And we normally have like a 3-day kind of Shangri-La period where everything's great, and then all of a sudden everybody hates each other.
Sure.
We lasted 7 days, and the flu, and the altitude. We have never had a better time because everybody now says let them. Everybody.
Oh, the whole
The
family's
whole
in on
family
it.
uses it.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
if my kids are sleeping in and they're not at the family breakfast, let them. If,
see what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying? Like it
Yep.
creates space for people to be who they are and to do what they need to do without the judgment and micromanagement. And my mom's stress declined. My kids' stress declined. I didn't feel like I needed to manage my mom. My kids have always said, I love our grandparents, but every time we're with them, you're a different person because you're like trying to be with your mom and make your mom happy. And why can't you just be normal? And I'm like, what do you mean I'm a different person? So so it has, even when the book came out, like I was, obviously I share a lot of stories from the family, and I had, everybody gets approval. And I had read the story about my mom not liking my husband when I first met him to my mom. And she was like, yeah, that's exactly what happened. And so, but I was nervous for when it came out in print.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
She's just been fantastic about it. And I got to tell you guys, there is something about learning that your mother's never changing, your dad's never changing. Your kids are not changing. The person that you are spending your life with isn't changing.
Right.
But that doesn't mean your relationship can't change for the better. When you let them be who they are, you create this space for acceptance.
Yeah.
And the person feels it, and their energy shifts.
That's so true.
And when you change your energy and you're not all riled up and triggered and annoyed and worried and controlling, your change changes the whole dynamic. And you know what I thought a lot about, you guys, is that before I stumbled into this, if you think about any family, think about your family like a spider web. You know, when you're out in the morning and the dew hits the spider web and it's beautiful, it's like all like shaken up with the dew. If somebody in your family who's like super political or super kind of narcissistic personality style, which we know comes from childhood neglect and is made during childhood, nobody's born that way, so it's a form of trauma. But these kind of big, troubling personalities, they're the ones that always would tap, tap, tap the web and shake everything up, and we're all scared of them, and then we get silent. What I've learned in the last 2 years that fundamentally changed my life is that you actually have bigger energy than the most negative and toxic behaving person in your family. You're more powerful. That you don't have to have a family dynamic where it's the most immature and unstable person that shakes everything. You can use let them and let me to have such a strong spiritual, energetic foundation that nothing rocks you. So that when you walk in to the family dynamic, you're not playing into it. You get to choose what conversations you're involved in and what you're not. You get to choose whether or not somebody's energy rocks you or not. And if you know what you're dealing with because you're going to let them, you're not surprised or disappointed when it's how it's always been. You just don't play into it. And over time, what happens when you start showing up as the stable, above it, grounded, compassionate person is that it stabilizes absolutely everything. And that person energy no longer dominates. It's unbelievable. That's how it's changed me. And, you know, the let me part that I'm working on the most is, you know, I grew up in a household that, you know, when people got overwhelmed with their emotions, and then an hour goes by and nothing ever happened. So I have all that wiring in me. And when I get frustrated or overwhelmed, I'm like sending the text, or I'm snippy with my kids, or I'm bringing the worst to Chris. The let them part has helped me manage the things that used to send me into rage. The let me part is where I have to practice what Amy was talking about. The distance and the response and the non-response. Because I've been surprised by how the Mel Robbins, for the first 54 years, would have responded to things that are just not worth a response.
Totally.
Yeah.
You know?
That feels nice.
I've noticed that, and this is counterintuitive, the more I have accepted the things I'm not in control of and paid attention to the things I am in control of, the more in control I feel, which I thought if I released those things, that I would feel more out of control.
Right.
It's the opposite.
But actually, it's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
I have a settling in my soul of, I'm not losing control all the time because I can see the very small circle of things that I'm actually in control of.
You know, I had mentioned earlier that one of the reasons why this is so powerful, and I think it has spread around the world so fast and has been not just something that is spread, but people are using it and sharing it and experiencing the power of it, is because it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists in a long legacy of ancient wisdom and therapeutic modality and philosophies. And, I wanted to read something to you because it also, everybody loves Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, right? And there's two big quotes in here that are exactly what you're talking about, Amy. Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing: to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances and to choose one's own way. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And what you're talking about is in moments of this overwhelming sense that things are out of your control, it is counterintuitive. But the moment you say, let them, you release the grip of control on something that you were never going to be able to control.
That's right.
Right.
And then this challenge becomes, how do I actually control my response to it? How do I change myself?
Yep.
Because that's what you always have. And that's what it's teaching all of us. It's just a tool, but it's applying all of this wisdom that has been around since the beginning of time.
It's true. And then it has freed up the energy to even do that.
Yes.
And to be frank, it's so interesting that we work so hard and spend so much time and effort controlling other people because it doesn't even work. Why do we keep trying? It's not even working. Like if it had high yield results, I'd be like, come on, Mel, I know it's a pain in the ass, but at least I'm getting what I want out of it.
Well,
right?
I think that here's
but it
the
doesn't
thing.
work.
But Jen, the reason why you do it is because people change in the moment to appease you. But they don't change who they are. See, there's one thing in life you'll never be able to change, and that's what another person thinks, what they do or don't do, what they feel, and what they believe. You can never change another person because people only change when they feel like it.
Right.
And we keep trying because their behavior makes us feel unsafe or unsettled or worried. And so therefore we think the power is in trying to get them to do something to make us feel better. I mean, that's why, I'll give you an example from my own life. When our son Oakley was little, we found out in the 4th grade he had massive dyslexia, dysgraphia, ADHD, you name it. And he bounced from one school to another. And he finally gets to high school. And I would hear him playing Fortnite, because they're like yelling at their friends and whatever.
Sure.
And marching up the stairs, swing open the door, as if the kid doesn't know
Sure.
that playing Xbox is somehow not going to help him get better grades. And so I was doing that because in the moment, what did he do? He turned off the Xbox and he went back to studying.
Sure.
But as soon as I left, what did he do?
Totally.
He turned back it on and just was quiet, not screaming at his friends.
Right.
Right.
It was like temporary behavior management.
So I feel better in the moment, which is why I do it. But it doesn't actually affect the change that I'm looking for. And, one of the things that changed me profoundly in talking to all these psychiatrists and psychologists and neuroscientists is one psychologist in particular that if you haven't had him on the show, you absolutely should have him on. He is a life-altering guy. His name is Dr. Stuart Ablon. He's at Mass General Brigham, psychologist for 30 years, founder of a program called Think Kids. And he actually wrote the guide in the back of the Let Them theory that is a free download for parents on how to use this.
Amazing.
So he basically says that kids do well when they can. And if they're not doing well, it's not a matter of willpower, it's a matter of a skill that's missing. And we, as human beings, when somebody's not doing well, we punish them because we think they don't have willpower, or we think they don't want to do well. And it's a huge mistake to ever look at somebody and think that they're stuck. And I'm going to ask you this question. Who is the hardest working kid in a classroom?
The one who is struggling?
Bingo. It's not the kid getting A's. Just like the friend who works hardest at their health isn't the one that goes to the gym for 2 hours a day. It's the person who's struggling with their weight. Because people know when they're not thriving. People know when they're not reaching their potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And nobody is stuck, because if you're not in a point where you're acting consistently with what you know you want, you are in deep conflict with yourself. And then here you and I come in and we're like, you should go for a walk, or you should really try studying.
Oh, boy.
And it's sort of like, thanks, Einstein, never thought of that. And there's an entirely different way to go about this, which is, instead of feeling like it's your job to motivate, which you can't, it's your job to influence and support from the sideline. You're going to take a with them approach. And this is what changed my life with Oakley. I basically did this thing, I call it ABC. You apologize for nagging them.
Yep.
And then you ask them all these open-ended questions. And one of the biggest ones that Dr. Stuart Ablon recommends that he talked to me about was, after you apologize for nagging, it must be super annoying that I'm on your ass all the time. I'm really sorry. Like, it can't be fun to be not doing well at school. How do you feel about it? Whatever they say, who cares? Because you just get them talking. And even if they're like, then just say, have you thought about what you might want to do about this? Because it's all they think about when they're at school.
That's right.
Yeah.
But you've never asked them. And so this is the with them. You put your arm around them. Have you thought about what you might want to do? And this goes with your partner that's struggling with their health, or their depression, or somebody that's lost their job and is having a hard time with it. Have you thought about what you might want to do? And then you're going to move to B after you ask these open-ended questions. You're going to back off. And this is important because, again, we've talked about how everybody has this hardwired need to be in control. Before anybody changes, they got to have space to think it's their idea. And I'm going to give you an example. This one example changed the way that I lead. It changes the way I parent. So Jen and Amy, let's say that we're all working together, and every day around 1 o'clock, I see the two of you pop up and you go out for a walk. And I'm sitting there tapping on my computer, shoving a sandwich down my throat, tap, tap, tap. And then you come back 30 minutes later and you guys look like refreshed and flush and amazing. This goes on for weeks. You never ask me to go on a walk with you. But about a month after watching this happen day in and day out, and it looks so fun and so easy, one of these days I look up and I look outside and I'm like, oh my God, it's a beautiful day in Austin. I think I'm going to go for a walk. Now here's the funny thing. I think it's my idea.
Yeah.
It was yours. It was the power of your influence over me. This is why we buy things online, because we think the new Golf driver is going to make us swing harder because it looks fun and easy. But you've got to back off. And after the conversation where you've asked them what they think they want to do about it, you got to back off and let them come to their own conclusion. And then C, you have to model the change. So just like you modeled that the walk was really great, but you never asked me, you can't ask somebody in your life to quit drinking while you're pouring wine. You cannot ask somebody to get in shape while your ass is laying on the couch. You cannot ask somebody to study harder while you're downstairs watching TV, blowing off the work you need to do. You have to model the change and make it look fun and easy. And when the person that you care about takes one step forward, please do not jump all over it. All I want you to do is say this. Here's how you're going to celebrate. You just say, hey, I know that was probably not the easiest thing to do. I'm really proud of you. Let me know if there's anything that you need from me. That's it.
Yes.
That's it.
Don't overplay your hand.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. And the other thing I'd love to share with you two that I don't know if it hit you as hard as it hit me, but the other revelatory thing about this is I've always been the kind of person that really didn't want to care what people thought. I read Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Giving a Fuck. I give so many fucks. Like, how do I stop doing it? And
Totally.
this was the one thing that helped me, because learning this kind of more revolutionary approach to what other people think about you and other people's opinions, and learning to say, let them have a negative opinion.
Yeah.
I can't believe I didn't know this sooner,
Yeah. What a relief.
because I've always been afraid of the negative opinion. So I,
Yeah.
twisting around and I don't care what they think, like
Same,
pretending
100%.
I don't, but just literally saying out loud, even before I post online, let them think something negative. Let them unfollow.
Sure.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I really don't care. So let them think it.
Well, and one thing that you did so brilliantly in the book on this exact point, which landed for me so hard, is that everybody thinks negatively about people sometimes.
Yeah.
We do. We think negatively sometimes about our favorite people on earth. The two things can be true at once. At no point will no one ever think something negative about you.
Yes.
Okay, then let them.
Yes.
Let them. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It doesn't mean you don't have meaningful relationships. It doesn't mean these people don't love you.
Yes.
It's not a terrible judgment on your character. This is life.
Yeah.
Everybody is going to be like, meh, about you sometimes.
Well,
okay.
It's fine. And here's
Yeah.
the other thing that I love about it, is that when I stop spending so much time trying to manage what they're going to think, and I just say, let them think something negative, let them be disappointed.
Yeah.
This was another big thing. Disappointment and the fear of disappointing people
Oh, boy.
used to run my life.
Same.
I mean, I would cancel a family obligation to not disappoint a business partner. And it would do it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I would bend over backwards and change everything and run myself into the ground to not disappoint my mom or dad. And then the let them theory comes along, and I'm like, wait a minute, let them be disappointed? And then I thought, well, isn't disappointment a good thing? I mean, if you can't make it to that 44th birthday party where you're all going to split the check at a, amazing tapas bar, and they're disappointed, isn't that a beautiful thing? Because doesn't that mean they want you there? If you can't give a speech at that nonprofit, if you can't volunteer at school and they're disappointed that you're not available, isn't that awesome? Because what's the opposite? That they're happy you're not there?
Right.
And so when you learn to let people be disappointed, you both honor their ability and experience in life, and you also recognize that somebody being disappointed in you can be a beautiful thing.
Wow. That's a good reframe.
Right? And here's the other huge revelation when I started saying, let them be disappointed, let them not understand, let them think something negative, let them unfollow me, let them misunderstand me. You then say the let me part, and you remind yourself that your job in life is to truly live your life in a way that's aligned with your values
Yep.
and with what's true for you. And the more that you do that, the more you're proud of yourself and you actually understand your intention and who you are. And what I've noticed is I don't think about other people much at all, because I know exactly who I am and I know
Sure.
what my values are. And if my behavior hurts somebody, I take responsibility for it. I apologize for the impact that it had, but I still know my intention. And so for anyone that struggles with self-worth, part of the reason why I used to struggle with it is I put my worth out there. If other people were happy, if other people were clapping, if other people were not disappointed in me,
For sure.
we're good. Learning how to let people feel how they feel and knowing I'm still okay with who I am, that is the singular thing that actually flipped self-worth on its head for me because I anchored it back inside me.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's a secret. That's it. Listen, everybody, there's so much more.
Well, let's do more.
I wish we had more time.
All right, well, I'll
But
come back, and you need to come to Boston, you two.
I love this plan, and I love your book.
Oh,
and
thank
it's so incredibly helpful.
Thank you.
And it peels back what I think are the layers to so much anxiety and helplessness and unhappiness that people are walking around with that they don't have to. They don't have to. These do not have to be a life sentence. There is a different way to do it.
Yeah.
So well done, you.
Thank you for seeing
And-
the power of this. Thank you
Yeah,
for helping
yeah.
me explain it in a way that is easy to understand. I am so excited that it is a theory that anybody can, like, you don't even have to buy
Sure.
the book. Like, you've
Yeah.
just gotten the gist of it.
Yep.
Right here, you can start using it, and
That's right.
you can explain it to your kids. You can, so that they're not hurt by what their friends are doing. Let them, and let me remind myself that there's good people out there, and I'm a good person, and
Yep.
that the power's in here. And especially in a moment like now, where the headlines are terrifying, and we're so polarized, and people are stressed out and acting in very immature ways. It's easy to feel out of control. And this is
Sure.
a simple way, minute by minute, day by day, for you to take the power back in your own life and start to feel and remind yourself that you are, in fact, in control of a lot.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
So for people listening, they want more. They're peaked.
Anywhere, just go to Mel. Go to Mel Robbins. Go,
There it is.
we put out so much free content,
Yeah.
and if you're interested, obviously we go into 8 major areas of how to use this theory in the book, but you can get started because of this. And more importantly, there is someone in your life, as you've been listening to us on your walk or in the car or at the gym or while you've been doing something at home right now, that came to mind where you're like, oh my God, they need this.
Yep.
Share this episode with them, because it's a way that you could help them improve their life and feel more in control immediately. And one thing that you know is they're not listening to you, just like my kids don't listen to me.
That's right.
My husband doesn't listen to me. Maybe they'll listen to 3 of us, but by sharing this, you're actually helping somebody take control of their lives. And that's a beautiful thing that you can do.
100%.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank
sis.
you.
Till next time.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you.
Bye, everybody.
All right, you guys, I'm telling you, we barely scratched the surface. So if you go over to jenhatmaker.com, underneath the podcast tab, we'll have this entire episode. So you can share this. This is such a good one to send to your people. And then I'll round up all of Mel's links because she's got tons of great content. Her socials, all of her free material that is available to you immediately. I'll put links to her books. Everything will be in one stop for you. And I'm excited to hear what you think about this. I am excited to hear about how you're putting some of this into practice and the difference that it makes. I'm telling you, I read her book and immediately sent a text that I needed to send, that was overdue. And the response was, thank you for saying that.
Really?
Yeah, it was to a child. She even says in this interview, she said, you already have enough. If you just listen to this show, you have enough to put it into practice. So anyway, she's great, man. I like her.
The minute I heard about it, I started using it. You can start using that today. And then I realized the second part, is the work of my life.
Okay. Same.
For the rest of the time.
100% same. All right, you guys, thanks for being here. We're so happy to just be staring down a whole new year of guests and episodes and ideas and conversations that we are so excited about this year and thrilled to bring you. We have so much going on in the show this year that's new, that's fresh, that we are thrilled about. So as always, we're so delighted that you're here. You mean the world to us. It's such a strong, loyal listening community. So thank you for being here. And we love you, and we'll see you next week.